So Peter, you're into making a sitcom now.
Yes.
What is it going to be about?
It's about entrepreneurship and the failings of entrepreneurship to take into context the social responsibilities and to make fun of people that don't really understand what the world looks like.
But so what is your point? Like there is this kind of like I don't know, Silicon Valley kind of ideology and this craziness and this like this cancer of positive
The positivism.
yeah, positivism that is like expanded from that coast of north part of America. So like what is your stand on this? How do you see that?
No, I think it's we don't really talk about the negative sides of the effects it has on society. Like especially in Western Europe, we're talking all about, in Northern Europe, we're talking always about the need for more investors, the need for more angel investors and seed capital, and all of these things that are about few people having a lot of power, and that we should look up to people with a lot of money, and we don't like. We're leaving all of these old values behind that were there for a reason, and like they are in some way intrinsically not compatible with a new world. That everything that's good right now must be bad because it's old, which is like a really weird way of having a society, that you don't build upon the good old stuff. You just throw everything out for just new stuff, and everything that's new is automatically better.
But somehow there is this like a class, new class is born.
Yes.
And basically a class of programmers and startups.
Yes.
And for example, I don't know, in Novi Sad, it's I don't know, there is like this new class of people that have like a normal salary because, for example, like it's normal to have like 1,500 euros per month for them, and like most of the people have like around 300 euros per month living there. So they have like 5 times bigger salaries, and they're growing this idea of how now the only way to survive is to make your own startup or to be a programmer. So we will probably live in some future in which will be like some class of programmers that will be some higher point.
So the programmers are the new knights. You know? That is basically what I'm seeing as well. It's like we are rebuilding that, which is kind of the interesting thing. Like the internet brings the possibility of everyone having the same access, same possibilities, same information. It's like a only real socialist structure that has ever somehow existed that can be totally functioning for everyone, no matter what kind of political view you have. But on top of that, we're building a class society where we have the educated elite that automatically, they have this privileged background or getting a privileged treatment that make them think that this is the world, for everyone and not just for them. It's like, it is a really weird way of dealing with all of this new information. Instead of building what we know is better, we're building something which makes people into pop stars and rock stars.
But it's some kind of, we were doing this research related to Facebook algorithm and so on. So I get some kind of picture about that basically all of us, we are, like Matrix movie, but the scene with the batteries and like they're sucking us and projecting
maybe it is,
and projecting some kind of world that we want to see. And basically it's the same what Facebook is doing there. You have this news feed, and then things that you want to see is projected to you. But on the other side, like what they're doing, they're sucking data and like on any possible way and transforming this data into profit. So and then I was thinking, okay, so if this is one factory in which all of us are basically raw material, so who are the workers in this factory? And basically the workers are algorithms. It's not all of those people, like clever people who are like, they're like, I don't know, working at Facebook, being happy. No, they don't transform data into profit. They're just fixing those like...
the tools, the robots.
The tools, yeah. So they are just like some kind of side workers. But then you can...
They're maintenance workers.
Yeah, maintenance workers, yeah. So and that's like really scary picture, no? To understand that you are not like a because we always have this kind of humanocentric point of view. When we see ourselves like we are the one who are working, and then we can be exploited. But now we are even not workers anymore. We are now like just a raw material.
Yeah, we're just being exploited all the time.
How do you feel about being a raw material?
I'm trying not to be. That's I'm one of few people that are not on Facebook out of the people I know. And the interesting thing, the effect that it had on me is that I don't have the same type of relationship between people. Like this, most people that are on Facebook, they have easy access to their friends. And it's a long story. I'll try to make it short. It's like, one thing that Facebook did really well from their point of view is that they made everyone equal friends. So you don't have close friends, you don't have distant friends. Either you're a friend or not. It's a very binary choice. So that means that you treat everyone more and more equally within that sphere. But it also means that the people that are not your friends are automatically not ever included. You don't have acquaintances that get invited every now and then. You don't have these like types of human relations anymore. So I'm not on Facebook, which means that I only hang out mostly with people that still want to have like a physical sort of interaction, that want to meet, talk on a phone and stuff like this. Which means also like typical thing, parties, don't get invited to parties because everyone invites people on Facebook for parties. So that is there is a drawback, which means that if you're not part of being raw material, if you're not being used and being just feeding this machine, you're losing.
Of course, there is a price. There is a price, and this is like also like something that I want to talk with you. Like, so you're also one person who sometimes disappear. No, I really know you for some time, and I know that sometimes there is just no Peter for like few months or something like this. I also tend to do this, not so radically maybe, and then I really noticed that there is a price.
Yeah.
So the price is sometimes like, okay, people first are starting to be pissed off.
Yeah.
Because you are not answering, then they start to worry, and then maybe they forget you, and then they accept that you are not part of these social things,
or they're all of it.
Yeah.
That's the most common reaction. Someone's pissed off for having to be worried about you and everything.
Yeah, and also I felt in few moments like that, for example, because I'm sometimes on this like no technology mode, and then people are trying to reach me through other people that are around me, and then you are basically
you're a problem for someone else.
Yeah, you are making problem for other people because the society doesn't allow you anymore to be disconnected.
No.
And then the pressure is going on some other people, and like you're creating some kind of mess. That's like really.
I have this problem also, like a very typical problem is my girlfriend. She does not like to answer on the phone. She doesn't want to have her phone with her, and not because she's paranoid or anything. It's more like it's an inconvenience for her, which means that every time she goes somewhere, her parents would call me, and I hate when people call me, and only her family calls me to get a hold of her. So I'm pissed at her. So even though I know exactly that it should be her right, I do exactly the same. And there's some sort of human emotion that we need to take out of this context in order to, optimize maybe.
Yeah. How do you feel? Like, okay, so you have like really diverse background, and one of those like things that happen in your life, you were part of some group of people that established one really popular peering platform. We as a society, or like, I think really especially for like media theory people or people who are into this kind of progressive thinking and like all of those conferences going on, we tend to have a highlights and tend to have like some kind of trends. And for example, copyright, that's meant so 2000 something, but somehow I see that the problem is that most of the time things don't get fixed.
Yeah.
So now the trendy thing is algorithms, but okay, next year it will be something else.
Yeah.
So, and somehow you are like the proof of that, because you went to jail like last year, no? Or
the year before, I think.
The year before, yeah. So But it's not trendy anymore, no?
To go to prison.
No, to
No.
go to prison, like a question of copyright.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
it's
no.
not, people don't speak about that anymore, but nothing changed. So how do you feel about it?
No, I think it's that's one of our weaknesses as activists, is that we don't really get things fixed. We sometimes manage to get them on the agenda to be discussed. And then for some reason, maybe because of like the attention span we have, or maybe because there's so many different things we have to fix, we just kind of tend of like getting bored with them. So copyright, for instance, super boring issue, super slow to fix, super slow to do anything with. So the only thing you do is in the end you ignore it, and the problem stays, and we just keep on to the next thing. And then we talk about surveillance, and then we have, you know, Manning and Snowden, all of these people coming out with this information, and then you're like so tired of this story. You're tired of the story with Julian Assange. You're tired with this. So I do get that people, we're restless. You know, we want to have something new. The problem is, yet again, the people that stay with one single issue that is super important. All of these issues are super important. But the people that stay, they're going to be in a situation where they're super bored, no one cares about their work, and they're going to stop doing that. And I don't know how to fix that at all. I feel very depressed about these issues, and the issue of depression. You know, that is what it is.
Yeah. But we can say, like, if we are following last 4, 5, 10 years, the digital activism became like much bigger topic now, and then like huge conferences going on, huge. But do you think that we as a like activist organization group around, we have a capacity to deal with those issues, or we are just part of this spectacle that is?
I think like on single issues, you know, there will be people that are affected by the things that activist groups do. So like you will help certain people. I don't think that we've come to the point where people realize how important these issues are, so that the general society help out. Even looking just at something like the global warming, which everyone knows is a problem. People they mostly join something like Greenpeace and give some money, and they think that problem is fixed. So of course it's not fixed, and I think that's the problem we have also in the digital activism series, that we can attract some people, we can attract some attention, we can minimize some harm, but we cannot really, we're using the same recipes as every other activist group has been using before, and when it comes to really big issues, they don't get solved. And also one of the weaknesses we have is that our issue is kind of young. It's only a decade or 2 years old, and we already have people that are veterans that have been around for a long time.
Celebrities.
Yeah, that too.
Like you.
No, but people that actually do stuff. But when there are new people coming in, the only thing they see is like someone who's still kind of young, still working on it. But like, if you're 40 today and you work with digital activism, you've done that for 10 years, you're getting tired of it. And the young people are needed for the new energy and for the new spirit and all of these things. But since that, it feels still young, so we don't capitalize on the youth actually helping out. We don't know how to bring them into our things. And many of the topics we work with are very complex. And it's not fun to educate yourself within these things. So I think if you look at the United States, where they have groups like Fight for the Future, they've been more successful, because what they do is like they do one campaign for one topic really quickly with an end result that is really visible, that we do this and this will happen. If you don't do this, this bad thing will happen. We haven't really done that in Europe. We've been doing like, we need to fix the whole thing, which is ideologically a more interesting way. But if you want to reach end goals and end results, I think the other way is probably better. So I think we need to do some hybrid, and we also need to get this much more focused on, much bigger as a topic. But I don't think we can do that with the current capacity.
What is, for example, like advice for 22-year-old digital activists in Serbia that you can say, like one thing, like, okay, you should?
No, I would like people to understand that we all have a responsibility of these things, and if you can help, you should help. Especially when it comes to this, because this affects everyone's everyday life. It's your liberties, your freedom of expression, freedom of speech. All of these things are directly connected to these topics, and we are very, very in tune with each other now. And you know, if you choose to, a simple thing, like if you choose to be on Facebook and you put a picture of someone up and you tag that picture, even if the person doesn't want to be on the picture, you still do it. That's like, you know, it's not, you're not a good friend. And all of these things are combining into one big global issue. So if you're 22-year-old in Serbia, you probably have bigger problems than the internet being a big problem, I would guess. And that is also the problem, you know, that we need to have some people that can focus on these issues. And I wouldn't like to be 22-year-old and have to decide that, you know, because that's going to be a really bad situation. So I have no good advice.
But you had, like, we heard your talk.
Yeah.
And even if it sounds like that it's some kind of really depressive, but in a way there is some kind of idealism hidden behind it, because you believe in some kind of good scenario. So you believe that your scenario will bring some kind of complete crash of the system. But I don't know, do you really think that by participating in all of this, like making it like even more radical, it will collapse in that way that will not stand up again, like the capitalism, or however you call
No, I think
the
that
system?
I think we tried the other way. Like, and, you know, if you try one thing and it doesn't work, you know, if you try it again, it's still not going to work. So our way of dealing with these issues are always the same. Like, if it's copyright or if it's surveillance, whatever it is, we always take the same route. So we're always within the same system. We are always within the same framework. And there's going to be approximately the same result. So you can see if you put in this much energy, you're going to get this much back. And then you decide how much energy can you know, you try to get this amount of energy in and you will get this results back. So it is a system, I wouldn't say that it's rigged, but it's not like going to work for the things we want to achieve. So my thinking right now is that, okay, if we overload it, you know, maybe that's a different thing. It's about testing another way.
Basically, like idea is to DDoS system with yourself.
Yes, yes, or with everything. Like, if you're going to be poor, make sure you're the poorest person in the world, because then interesting thing happens. Like, I'm so poor that you know, they can't take money from me because it wouldn't cover my debt. So I'm protected some ways from a debt, because it is like all of these things, when they get to their extremes, the system is not prepared for it. And when you start fixing a system that is already like kind of broken, you will start see cracks and things falling. And I'm always thinking about how can we do things differently when they don't work, instead of trying the same over and over again. So that's why I'm thinking, like, maybe if we do this, you know, over data, at least people will get to the point where, like, they're totally fucked up with it, they're totally tired of it, and react. Because today, even after everything that happened with Snowden, all of the information we have about how the government spies on us, the things we've been seeing coming from copyright, the censorship happening, we still don't really do anything. Some people, again, the privileged class, can circumvent it, and they're the ones who should rather make sure that we don't have to circumvent it. They should maybe make tools instead of hiding yourself. Maybe they should be propagating, like, we're not going to make tools, because then we're going to be in a defensive mode, we're going to be in a reactive mode. And that has become the situation with everything we have. Is like, we laugh at the censorship because we can circumvent, and then you have 95% who can't.
But okay, is there, for example, something that is out of the radar that we don't see, but you see, for example, like, okay, big problems. Okay, so there is like a big problems around, and we are like speaking about like algorithmic transparency. We are speaking about censorship, freedom of expression, or so on, so on. But is it? Do you see something that is out of those like big keywords and that is like really important?
No, I think
that is out of the picture.
I think what's out of the picture is the big picture, like how it's not connected to each other. Like, it is all connected to each other, and I think that's what no one is really focusing on. And the proof is that when you talk to especially young people today, most of them would say, I don't care about politics, I'm not interested in politics. One of my very like key moments of time when I started thinking about this quite a lot is when I met the CEO of WhatsApp. He wanted to have a meeting, and we were talking about security and surveillance and all of this. And we were sitting over lunch, and we were discussing a lot of things, and whatever he said, I was basically against what he said from an ideological point of view. And then he got pissed at me and said, "Peter, why is everything about politics with you?" And I said, "Well, everything is about politics because that's the way the world looks." So what he says, like, I hate politics. I don't want to have anything to do with politics. I want politicians to stay out of my business. I don't want to tax me too much. I don't want to have an invasion of my privacy, all of this. And I told him, this is politics. And he got really pissed at me.
That's some kind of anarcho-capitalism.
Very much. Yeah. And that is the problem. Like, people think they're above politics or not interested in politics and don't care about politics. And they don't have an agenda. They don't have an ideology. That is an ideology.
But that's basically ideology.
Yeah, and for me, this is the thing that we're missing, like the environmental changes, the class system, the wars are somehow all connected into an unfair society. And the internet promised us that we could kind of get rid of this. We could make a fair system on top of a new infrastructure. And the first thing we do is like we take all of the faults in normal society and we put them on top of the internet and replicate them instead of taking the good things of the internet and replicating to the offline world. So this thinking about the big picture, what do we want to achieve, is the thing that no one really talks about and what I'm missing. And you just go back to like the 70s, even the 80s, at least there was some sort of ideological discussion. And this discourse has just been out of the window because we're so focused now on becoming the next Kardashian family or something like this. And even like even monarchy is moving quick enough to understand that our princes and princesses must marry ordinary people for them to think that it's possible to become a princess or prince. So on our side, where we want maybe some more radical change in the world, we're not very active. And that is my main problem. My question is very much like, I get invited to all of these conferences all the time, and like I went with Mr. Petrovsky to Kosovo, for instance, and one of the things is like people...
famous cyber forensic Mr. Petrovsky.
Yes, this Mr. Petrovsky, not the other one. Yes. And my problem is that every time you go to a conference, because we're obsessed with idols or with people who have done something and always think, what do you think about this, like this, I wouldn't say worship, but this like where people look up to people from totally different background to fix problems in some place else.
I think this is really related to this idea that like this kind of app that can save the world, or like programmers or people who are in IT and tech, they have solution for everything. And this kind of Morozov kind of thinking, like, and you really see more of that on conferences, because like like most of the talks are how we are going to save the world with this app, or how virtual reality it will change the world and so on, so on. Yeah, that's the problem. Another kind of problem, it's those like celebrities. Yeah. And my like fear, like some kind of like really Armageddon idea is like that everything become like one big conference. Yeah. Like all the world, or everything, and we are just going from one conference to another,
or just the world becomes a conference.
Yeah, and no one is working anything anymore. Everyone is just speaking and being public superstars, and like that's because there are so many conferences.
But do you think they change anything? Do you think there is an outcome from the conference except for the people that participate?
I don't think. I really don't. I'm more and more skeptic about the events. Yeah. And I more and more start to appreciate people who do research, people who read, people who write, spend some periods of time in doing something and adding some value, that it's not just like public speech or something like this, but value in information, in thoughts, in data, in whatever. So,
because I've noticed, like the first time I went to Brazil for a conference, I learned much more than anyone else at that conference because it was a totally new culture for me. I don't think I added anything, but people asked me for like life advice because I've done something which they recognized and they liked. It's this idea of like, and then I meet the same people in most of these conferences and we never get time to do anything. Even conferences might be harmful from taking time from people that might do something otherwise.
Right.
So how do we get rid of this idolizing people in conferences?
I don't know. I think we should practice. We will not make idols if we really read what they do, or if they really create some kind of product.
Yeah.
And I think this is what we should train ourselves, that our attention span, it's like higher and higher, bigger and bigger, so we can read again, we can try to understand the world again, or something like this. But yeah, we have in our scene also those problem of superstars and so on and so on.
And I was thinking, I read also in prison, I reread quite a lot of Foucault, because it's very interesting reading Foucault in prison. But one of my favorite things is he wrote this article that I always think about French philosophy in the 80s, and published in Le Monde. And the only deal he made with Le Monde is if I'm going to publish this, you're not allowed to say who wrote it, because I want to write about why philosophers are obsessed with who did say this, who wrote this, in order to evaluate the words. And everyone, after it was published, only talked about who. We can't really talk about this content. We need to understand who wrote it in order to put it in some sort of context. And I feel the same in all of the conferences and all of the activism, that it's always about the background and the story. It's more the storytelling than the actual, content of something.
Can you give us top 5 books that you should bring to prison?
Everything by Dostoevsky, everything by Gogol, everything from Kafka, especially Kafka.
Yeah,
no, it's interesting. Kafka book, the transformation, is the first thing you experience in prison. So you're a normal person one day, the next day you're some sort of bug that wakes it in a cell. And people hate you for some reason, you don't know why, but you kind of get these people, you understand them hate you. And it is a transformation. It's not a fair transformation. So reading Kafka for that reason actually makes you understand a little bit more of the situation you're in, and makes you accept that, these people are bad. It's not because of me, but I understand, why they're bad against me. So, and then it depends if you want to escape prison when you're in, or if you want to understand the world where prison is part of it when you're in.
So different books for different...
Very different books for very
tactics,
different things, yeah. But generally reading is quite cool. And it's not going to be 5 books. You're going to read 1 book per day. So hopefully you're going to only need 5 books then, but, depends on how long you're going to be in. What's your favorite books for reading in prison?
I didn't think about that yet, but...
No. I'll send you some.
Are you allowed to
To what?
to bring this e-reader or not? You cannot have...
No, in the Nordics you can't have that.
So basically prison is some kind of a digital detox, no?
Basically, yes. That is... I met a guy, and that was quite interesting. I was speaking with this guy. He's a junkie. He was in prison for... he got sentenced for 8 months for something, and he's super junkie, and had been in for 2 weeks, and he was all of these addiction pills, all of these things. So I asked him, so what do you miss the most being here? It's my cell phone. I want to play these games on my cell phone, and I miss my cell phone. And then I talked to him a little bit more. I asked him about his family. Says he has a girlfriend, he has a kid. I'm but you said you miss your cell phone most. Yeah, I probably miss my kids most. And then he's he rolled his eyes, realizing that he actually honestly said that he missed his cell phone the most. So he really needed to go to prison, not for the crimes, but for the detox, I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Panther.
Thank you, Mr. Golem.